Blastsportz. As you know, I'm your host, Jay, also known as Coach Jay. Damn it, I bring the best talent to my platform. And today I have a phenomenal defensive tackle on my platform today. Introduce yourself, please.
All right. What's up, everybody? My name is Deja, but you may know me as Butts, number 35. Big bad, Brooklyn all day. What's up?
You remember our Brooklyn conversation. I was going to take your
Yes,
card away
and
if you
again,
don't take it.
listen, that's me. I wish I could have found my headband. I used to wear my Brooklyn headband every game. I can't find it. I'm gonna find it before the season though.
You better have it because I'm going to be the season opener. I want to see it.
For
So
sure,
let's,
for sure.
let's talk about this. How did you start playing football?
Whew, where do I start? Well, it starts when I was born, right now. My dad, my dad used to carry me around like a football, sit me in front of the Giants game, every Sunday or Monday, whenever they was playing, and I don't know, it's just always been embedded in me, about football. My brothers started playing when they was younger. I'm the oldest, so I got to see everybody practice and everything, and I got the bug and kept asking my dad, come on, dad, let me play, let me play. And he's like, no, no, no. And then finally, one day, I was like 12, 13, and there was another girl who was playing, Olivia, shout out to Liv. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to play this year. So my dad was like, okay, if she plays, I'll let you play. And I was like, cool. And then, he paid his money, all right, I'm on the team. And she bailed out. She said, yeah, nah, I'm not going to play this year. So my dad was like, I was like, well, you already paid your money. So, and the rest is history from
No,
there.
no
I was
refunds.
like,
No refunds.
I was like, hey, let's not waste the money now. So so I started off as a youth baller. I played with the Brooklyn Titans. And then when I aged out of that program, my father was like, okay, that's it. I hope you got it out your system. And I was like, and then I found another team, the Brooklyn Pit Bulls, and they had an older lighter. So at that time, I believe I was in high school, and I just had to make weight, and I played some more and had a great season with them. And then after that, my dad was like, all right, that's it. And I was like, okay, you got it. So I got a little bit into track. That's what I did for my collegiate years. And surprisingly, I went back to the Brooklyn Titans around 2013, 2014, just to coach, give back to the community, help out the youngins.
Yeah.
And Colette Smith, who was a shark player at the time, she just so happened to see us getting ready for a game at the field at Boys and Girls High. And she came down there to talk to the boys. And then she looked at me and she was like, you should play. And I was like, me? Oh. And I was like, and then the kids are like, yeah, nah, Coach Deja, come on, you should. And I was like, I was like, listen, I don't know about y'all, but my knees are bad. But I wound up trying out, and the rest is history. I've been playing ever since.
When you decided to go back, how did your father take that?
uh so at first he was like, you just stubborn, like, but I think he knew like how much I loved the game. And so he was just like, okay, I'm gonna let you play. um, and then I think what even like enhanced it even more for him was seeing me on the field, like seeing me in that, in that mode. He was like, he used to tell people like, I got 3 kids and my girl is the only one that want to hit.
Yeah.
So, and then even when I went back, as an adult, it was kind of like, oh, okay, but I think seeing more, women in it and not, me being in a co-ed team or anything like that, that definitely, I guess kind of eased him a little bit. But my father's always been super supportive of me and all my crazy antics, and you'll see him at the games.
All right. All
For
right.
sure. Hmm.
You you always a defensive player?
Hmm.
Because you
I
said you want to play running back when we spoke behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I was not always a defensive player.
Okay.
So like in my youth days, I played on the line. But I mostly played like O line. I was a guard because I was shifty. I was, I can move, I can block. Um and I did play a smidget of running back, but I think what helped me out in my youth days was the fact that I knew the playbook like the back of my hand. I knew what everybody was doing for every play, whether it was offense or defense, special teams. So I was one of those players that my coach could be like, "Hey, I need you to jump in that corner real quick." Even though I ain't played a lick of corner, but I know what a corner does. I know what the position entails. So things like that. Um, and then when I got into women's football, um, I started off as a hybrid essentially. At that time, there were some players that were kind of, aging out, wanting to retire. And so I played a little bit of fullback and middle linebacker. And
You play middle
that was my
linebacker?
thing. I did.
Yeah, yeah.
I did. I was much smaller. I mean, not like, super skinny, but I was smaller. So I was a lot more mobile. But I definitely played a little bit of linebacker, definitely played a little bit of fullback. But even in that fullback position, I've always been aggressive. So,
Gotcha.
I
'Cause you-
think I've always had a defensive mindset. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. You was looking for
Yeah.
someone to hit even when the play was dead.
That's it. It was one play. The coach was like, "Why didn't you break to the left?" And I was like, "Because she was in my way. Like I was going to make sure she was going to get out of my way, and I made her get out of my way." So
So you
I
had
just
a
want to hit people.
you had a Jeremy Shockey in you. He was looking for the players.
Basically, basically, I was like,
Oh,
"But
I
she
love
was
that.
there."
You say you did
So
track, right?
yes,
And I
hmm
noticed in your practices, your first two steps are really fast. I've noticed that
thank
a
you.
lot. You know, do,
Okay.
do you credit that to track?
Um. Yeah, I can credit that to track. So over the years, well, throughout all my sports years, from youth ball to track and field to rugby, back to football, I've done a number on my body, and but track definitely helped. So when I transitioned from youth ball to track, I thought I was going to be the next best thing running. I thought I was going to the Olympics. I don't care what nobody.
Yeah.
I didn't care what nobody said, but track definitely kept me disciplined because I got on that track and them girls was a little faster than me and they had more endurance. So my first couple track meets, I was like, oh, this is not for me. Nope. I thought this was gonna be easier, but I realized that, I had to put in the work, I had to do what I need to do. And speed was obviously something that you need in track. And it wasn't even just like the track events, like the actual like the 4 and the 2. I did shot put and jab. So, I had to have a strong lower body, strong upper body. So I had to, kind of manage both. But when it came to those sprints, oh yeah, nah. My coach used to always tell me, "You got these big legs, you got so much power, go, go, go." So, it kind of definitely, as I got into my adult football career, it definitely,
Gotcha.
helped me out and definitely transcended. So for sure, I definitely could attest to that.
You said you played fullback. Do you think playing fullback, you kind of have an offensive mind a little bit there? Somewhere in there, there's a little offensive mind in there, but somewhere deep in there, like we gotta dig in there, but we'll find the fullback in there. But do you credit that for the way because you're very disciplined on the line. I have to give you credit. I give credit where credit's due. You're very
Yeah.
disciplined on the line.
hmm
But it seems like you kind of know, like you said, you know the positions of everyone.
hmm
So do you credit that for when you're making the plays? Do you kind of like think like a fullback, or this person's gonna open the hole, or is it you have that running back, somewhat of that running back mentality in your mind?
Yeah. I would say it depends on who we're playing because
Okay,
sometimes we get a run heavy team, sometimes we get a pass heavy team. So as far as like I guess my thought process on the line, um, I won't necessarily attribute that to my fullback days, but I definitely will attribute that to my youth ball days. Like I said, studying the playbook.
gotcha.
I'm I'm not as disciplined as I was when I was a kid, studying the plays and watching film and things like that. But I know what to look for. Um, I know like little tricks, and my biggest thing, especially from switching over to being a fullback and a linebacker to a defensive tackle, has been technique. I've always thought, even playing, when I was a kid, I was a little 4, maybe 4'9", 4'10", guard, backup block. But back then, football, the line, the trenches, we were all big,
Yeah,
so I was always used to going up against bigger people, and now you get a lot of shifty people, fast feet, fast hands, very technique heavy. So my mindset has definitely changed as far as technique, and now I'm looking for key things like, oh, it's gonna be a pass, she don't have a hand in the dirt. Oh, it's gonna be a run, she's leaning forward, as far as like the line, or even watching her running back. She's not in a deep enough stance. She's not about to run, she's about to block, things like that. So I pick up on little key things like that now because, you know, just studying the playbook and watching film. And, sometimes, the fullback does kind of,
yeah.
resonate back with me. But, it's not even really used now. There's,
Not at all.
they got a two back system, they just got the one back, things like that. So, football has definitely changed. And I just got to keep my nose in that playbook and study film. So
Gotcha.
I
No,
definitely would say that.
you said something that's pretty deep. You said film, but you're also picking up on tendencies.
Hmm.
And I always say that I always say everyone has a tendency
Hmm.
when they're playing, and you picking up on it.
Yep. I got to.
Oh, you
You
got
know,
to.
I got to. The thing is, right? So even with that mindset of like, okay, when I was a kid, I was the smallest one in the line. That's still the same today, right? Like, yeah, I might see someone on the other side that's about the same size as me, maybe a little taller, but for the most part, for a defensive lineman, I'm considered small, right? So, sometimes the reason why my steps are so fast because I gotta take up, I gotta get 2 yards for your 1 yard. You can take one step and that's 3 steps for me. So, those are the reasons why I do what I do. But um yeah, I mean,
No, no, no,
I
that makes sense.
you know, yeah, I guess I've been playing for so long that I've had to pick up on tendencies too because, you know, I might get a big girl in front of me. I might get a girl the same size as me. Prodigy, their line is pretty deep. They got a
Yeah,
nice little roster. And but we're all pretty much kind of on the same level, as far as height wise goes. So it's like, okay, how can I beat you? Because now the mindset is not, me just filling up a hole. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm selfish. I'm trying to make a play, so
yeah. All
now I'm gonna
right.
pick up on stuff. Oh, you tired. You breathing hard. Oh, you think I'm tired. Oh, okay. You want to take this play up, things like that.
Yes,
So,
yes.
you know,
That makes sense,
and
though.
that's
That makes
something,
sense.
yeah.
You,
I mean, I've learned that in football in general, but definitely in the trenches, it's a mind game. It's a mind game. You got to be intellectual at the same time, but you kind of got to have, some screws loose. So, I try to balance it.
you are
Try
right,
to
though.
balance it.
I'm not gonna lie. Oh my God,
And
you
you know
funny
I'm
as
right.
hell.
You know I'm right. You
You
know
are
I'm
right.
right.
But it seems like you play with a chip on your shoulder.
Okay.
And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the way you describe, I mean, I see you on the field, but I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
remove that from what I saw, and I'm just gonna go based off what you say. You play, you're studying the person, or you tie
Mm-hmm.
inside, like you kind of playing with a chip, and it's not. I'm not saying you want to kill the person, but clearly you want to win.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have that chip on your shoulder?
Um, I don't know. I think for me, it's football has always been my outlet, right? Even from begging my father to play to being able to play with women who share the same level of the game as me. Um, but there's always something to prove, right? Even with track and field, there was always something to prove. And I don't think I'm trying to prove it to any specific person but myself.
Gotcha.
Um, I'm I love what football has shown me who I am, Um, I get through a lot of situations just based off of, being in football situations, All right, you gotta calm down, you got level head, you don't want to get kicked out of the game. Hey, you gotta keep a level head. You can't go off on this person at work because guess what? You ain't gonna have no job, So, I equate it to that. And I don't I I don't think it's necessarily a chip. I just think that I love to prove to myself that I can do it, you
Gotcha.
know? even when even when all odds are against me, even when my body is like, girl, what's going on? I just, if I can just keep pushing myself, I know that I can get through anything. And, it definitely stemmed from, getting on the line.
Gotcha. No, no,
Playing ball.
that's where the trenches. That's where it's won and lost. That line.
Absolutely.
That's what they say.
Hmm.
What they say. You build a team from the line out.
Yep. Yep.
You are
No pressure. No
considered.
pressure.
You are considered an undersized defensive tackle. Does that add to it?
I think so. I think so. Some people may tell you that I have a small man complex. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But any opponent that I any opponent that I go up against, whether I'm playing, running back, I'm playing linebacker, I'm on the line, whatever, you're gonna feel me. You know what I mean? Like I don't go lightly, And I like that fight too. I like that, who's better, who's,
Yeah.
who's gonna get the job done. I like that. I like going up against bigger opponents because, you know, even if I'm struggling, right? We okay, dang, another first down, and I'm still going up against this person. And in that one play, I actually make the play in the backfield, and you thought you had me. I love stuff like that. I do.
Gotcha.
And then sometimes I'm like, oh God, which play was that? And then I go back to film and I'm looking to see what I did because now I need to figure out, okay, I got another big opponent next week. What can I do then? And then again, it goes back to the watching film. But I think my size, yes, it does kind of segue into that. But in the same breath, I'm still all about, proving myself and, what I
Gotcha.
can do on the field.
Last season, you was an expansion team. Nothing was expected from you ladies at all. However, you have 4 games of the week, 4 different times. That has to do something for your ego.
Um, so I'm gonna be completely honest with you. That was my first time playing in the WNFC. Obviously, we played in, other leagues prior to. Um, and although for me, I can't speak for everybody else, but the games of the week for me, eh, you know, obviously I would love to be featured, but I
Yeah.
know in the trenches, sometimes it's a thankless job, right? But it's cool, right? As long as my team is doing what we need to do, that's really the main thing. Um, I don't want to say it's an ego booster, at least not for me.
Okay.
For me, it's we're showing you what we can do. You see it. We're gonna give you a good game. You're not gonna see us, being blown out. And don't count the last game, but but I mean, I'm looking forward to see what this season brings.
Yeah.
And definitely highlighting myself a little bit more. But you know, I also think it's a popularity thing. So but that's just my personal opinion as well. So it is what it is. We get highlighted, we get highlighted. We don't, we don't. At the end of the day, a W is a W.
No, no, I got you. And it makes sense. It is at the end of the day, it is a popularity contest to a degree. You are right, to a degree.
Mhm.
But what gets the most popularity wins.
That part. Agreed. Agreed. And that's why we've been working. That's why we've been
No,
working.
no. Your team
Good.
this year seems much deeper than last year,
Mhm.
especially the defensive side. Even, like you have a rotation, seems like a more adept rotation of the defensive line. Last season, everybody knows it's no secret. You ladies want the defense is on the field a lot. This year, they're trying to
Yeah.
minimize it. You have a
Hmm.
rotation. There are going to be games where you're going to be called upon to, do your thing. With the rotation, you get more rest.
Hmm.
Is that going to help you a lot more?
Um, I hope so. um, it's definitely gonna be, a lot easier to, maintain right in a game. But again, like I said, I'm selfish. So I want all the playing time that I could possibly get. I want all the tackles I could possibly get, so I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like every season I go in where I'm like, I'm just gonna be greedy. That's when I go crazy. So yes, the rest will be helpful. However, I don't plan on leaving the field unless you might have to drag me off.
Gotcha. No, I respect that. I
Yeah.
respect that. That's an honest answer.
Yeah.
You got a couple of key pieces now. It seems like you got your. It seems like your running back room has expanded
Hmm.
to slow the clock down, give the defense more breathing time
Hmm.
and everything. Is there one running back on your team? And I know all of them are phenomenal players. Let's just be clear about that because I know how sensitive the world is. Yes, they're all
Right.
phenomenal. But if there's one person you're like, yeah, I kind of want to see what she's gonna do on the field this year. Who would that player be?
Um, so as far as running backs, there's actually two people that I'm really excited to see.
Okay,
Now, one I
okay.
will say, Maddie's my girl, right? Like I told you, off camera, she
That's
gonna
what I'm
put in
looking
the work.
forward to see.
She's gonna put in work regardless. My girl, she gonna put in the work on and off the field.
Shout out to my
Trust
girl
me.
Maddie.
Hey, right? Shout out to you, Maddie. But who I'm really looking forward to seeing this year, and like I said, it's two people. Um, Ebony.
Okay.
So she was like um, our big running back. And I don't mean that inside. I just mean, obviously she's a little taller,
Yeah.
but she's supposed to be, that force running back. And her off season looked great. She came back looking phenomenal. So I'm actually really excited to see what she does on the field this year. And then we have a rookie who is playing running back, Lauren Hall. I'm actually really, really, really excited to see what she's gonna bring as far as in that running back rotation because she's shifty. She's shifty, and I
Gotcha.
like her because she doesn't seem like she's afraid to have that contact. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
some running backs, and I'm not naming no names and nobody on our team, but some running backs, they don't want that contact. So yeah, they can be fast and shifty, but once they hear those feet, they
no, I
freeze.
see.
Or they
I
just
agree.
running.
I
They
see it all
running
the time.
sideline to sideline. Exactly,
We
exactly.
see it.
So
We see it in the NFL. They hear the footsteps,
exactly.
and they're like, nah. They make a business decision.
Exactly, exactly. But she got some grit in her, and I'm really, really, really excited to see how she develops her field vision and just how she takes that and runs with it, literally. So
Gotcha.
I'm excited to see both of them.
There's another player shifting from offense to defense. We spoke
Okay.
about her behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows I am a huge fan of hers.
Yeah.
Ashley's playing safety now. Ashley Fine.
Yes. Yes.
Very
Yes.
fast, lights out speed.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
Yeah.
of reminds me of Ryan Clark a little bit.
Okay. I can get with that. I like Fung. I think that for the defensive side, she definitely brings a different light,
Hmm.
right? Because, like I told you, off camera, we feel a little touched,
Yeah.
we a little touched on defense. And sometimes we can seem a little more aggressive, a little more angry or whatever. Fung is a bubbly personality. So I'm really, really excited to also see her on the defensive side of the ball. Just to see like what the dynamic is. And honestly, already we see it in practice. She catches those picks and she's going off. You thought me pointing at you when I made my tackle with some
Yeah.
fun. Oh yeah, nah, she taking it to the house. That's a big nine. That's a big nine. so I'm excited to see her in that element as well because I feel like the change from offense to defense is something special. There's something about it that just you really just dig deeper.
Gotcha.
And and I think she's gonna do great. I'm not mad at it. I'm happy she's on our side. And again, we can definitely use the speed.
Yeah, because it seems like you're to me, and I said this in a couple of interviews. I said your defensive line reminds me of the New York Giants when they beat the New England Patriots that year with Justin
Mm,
Tuck and all those players. Because it's like you're so aggressive that line.
yeah.
Now your secondary is better than what the Giants had. Because I thought the Giants secondary, it was that line. That line was insane.
Yeah.
It was
Hmm.
insane. And
Yeah.
but you could see that. with Fung back there, you're gonna be able to get coverage sacks, but then with the defensive line coming in so fast, she's gonna
Hmm.
get that forced interception. They're gonna not want to get hit. They're gonna force it in.
That's it. That's it. And that's the plan. Shout out to Coach Dew, shout out to Coach
Oh, big
Fent,
shout out to Coach Deuce.
and shout out to Coach Prince, our D line coach. He ain't wrapped too tight neither. So it's a nice little, it works. We work.
Yeah,
And I think, like I said, working on the technique and, just even both of those coaches, they instill in us, like, you gotta have a little dog in you. You gotta be a little cocky. You gotta
yeah.
be, we gotta brag a little different. So I think even with them, instilling that in us and just staying on top of us, and again, just with the coaching alone, like, I think I've seen a huge change this season. We do a lot more film. um Obviously we're filming our practices so we can see what we're
Yeah,
doing. I think that's a great help. They've really been, putting in the work so that we can put in the work. So I mean, kudos to them as well. We can
gotcha.
have that raw dog in us. No pun intended, but
Yeah,
they bring it out even more. So now it's just a matter of, okay, we have that element. Now we just got to keep it controlled, and and keep building from there
you said you're working on your technique,
all the time.
and I'm not trying to be mean and compare and all that, but if you could use one defensive player that you kind of look at their technique in the NFL and you're like, okay, I like the way X, Y, and Z does that. And I'm not saying you completely copy the individual, but you like,
Hmm.
I guess, some ideas of
Hmm.
how they do it. Who would that player be?
JC, Jalen Carter.
Okay.
I think so. I know that I have, like, my lazy tendencies. He also has his lazy tendencies, so I relate closer to him than most, interior tackles. Um, Obviously, like, I'm a huge fan of Miles Garrett and um a few other players, but those are, I feel like the edges, it's not easy, but I'm not an edge player, right? But JC, I see him on a different level. Like, I'm like, we here,
Okay.
kind of thing. So he's definitely one player that I resonate with more. Um and again, that's just off of, his tendencies as well, but he also has that raw edge to him as well that I absolutely love. And it reminds me of, when I'm on the field. I know I'll take some plays off. I'm working on that. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get my endurance up. But that's why I said, like, this off season was something, that I really needed to work. And I feel like he's one of those players that did the same. So
Gotcha.
definitely.
Final question of the day. How many sacks you predicting this year?
Oh, you asked me that before. I don't know. um
I gotta
so
ask
here's
again. I'm trying to pull it out of you.
so here's the crazy part, right? I don't know. And that's I know that might sound crazy, right? But I also know, or at least I need to stop thinking like that. But it gets no love on the inside, right? Like, it's just
Yeah.
like, you helping out the linebackers, you might help out a defensive end. Um, but we're the first line of defense,
Yeah.
literally the first threat. Um, but I don't another thing, some of my tackles, my stats got messed up last year. I ain't gonna say no names, but it's cool. but but I, I don't know. To me, sacks are hard, and that's not, because of the opponent or anything like that. It's I play in the middle.
No, you do. You do. I was
I
gonna
play in
say
the
seven,
middle.
7.5.
I listen. I'll take that. I'll take that. And if I can get half of that before the first game,
All right.
you called it. I'm definitely gonna shout you out for that
I'm,
one.
I, I'm gonna hold you to it. Now I'm rooting for it.
I got you. I got you. I got you. But yeah, sacks are hard, and I think a lot of the systems that I used to play in as a
Mhm.
defensive tackle, were four linebackers, and that's cool. Again, I don't
Mhm.
whatever's good for the team, whatever y'all need. And every now and then I'll get in there and get
Yeah.
my little, my little tackle. But I think this year our D line coach, again, shout out to Coach Fitch. Um, he got some stuff up his sleeve, and we vibing with it. So it's definitely possible. The 7 is definitely possible.
All right. All right.
For
Well, listen,
sure.
thank you for your time, Buzz. I appreciate you. Had a
Of course.
blast.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
Anytime. You know you're coming back again. You're gonna